The Secret Beliefs of the Illuminati, the complete truth about manifesting money using the law of attraction that is being hidden from you. Written by Dan Desmarks, and read for you by Neil Mars. Introduction. The world keeps changing extremely fast, but in times of abundance and scarcity, under revolutions or wars, many have prospered. And they did so by looking at the patterns of reality. They understood these divine patterns and used them to achieve their personal goals. The patterns have been kept secret for thousands of years in religious books, manuscripts, and even fairy tales, under allegories and metaphors meant to hide them in plain sight. The enlightened ones, those who can see, called that sacred geometry, in a direct reference to the Creator. They then studied the nature of life through the art of the Almighty God, the master architect of the universe. For the secret of the occult sciences is that of nature itself. Albert Pike, Freemason. They discovered that there is only one truth, one God and one religion, despite the many branches characterizing the impulses of the masses. They also saw that this truth is manifested by the highest moral state, from which the highest wisdom is received. That is when the half-told story comes to be finished. Arthur Conan Doyle, Freemason. The one who completes these studies becomes a master of the craft, for he possesses the capacity to alter reality with his mind, and create new worlds like a mason or builder. He becomes both aware and responsible of what he experiences, as much as he is made able to transition to new momentums and alter the future. For when the mason learns that the key is a proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mystery of the craft. Manly P. Hall, Freemason. This great secret was reorganized here to show you exactly how to experience it, and despite the many attempts of others to remove this knowledge from the public eye. This information comes now as a great opportunity for you to transcend into a new perspective on the attraction of wealth. Chapter 1, The Transference. The law of attraction is just the tip of the iceberg on the amount of power that everyone possesses within themselves to change anything. It all starts with our perspective of the world. In truth, the law of attraction cannot be fully understood without an acknowledgement of the social programming and how the power elite became so powerful, or how they keep such power. There has been a transference of power and symbols from culture to culture, while the masses were kept in the dark, indoctrinated into falsehood and manipulated through religion. It's called transference. It's very common in symbology. The Nazis took the swastika from the Hindus, the Christians adopted the cruciform from the Egyptians. Dan Brown, in Angels and Demons. The light got clearer and the darkness got darker, and two groups in our world expanded in either enlightenment or ignorance. Today we can go much deeper than our symbols, when we begin analyzing our ideas about money and wealth, or our values and needs, as well as our priorities and dreams. The gap is so wide, that one feels like his personality is being torn apart when uncovering the truth. But nothing exists except through human consciousness. George Orwell, Freemason. You can't really make significant changes in your physical existence if they're incompatible with your belief system. Your beliefs shape the patterns of energy in which you live, and keep you there permanently, unless you transform. Any ritual that intends to guide you out of this prison, has to create a rupture within you, between your emotions, thoughts, beliefs and attachments. Because you can only attract new and more effective ideas when they don't match your pre-existent mental patterns. Here we have the meaning of resurrection, not as a mystical or religious restart but rather a reformation of the personality, and more precisely, your heart and outward conduct. The expansion on the amount of opportunities for change and reformation is proportional to the rightful knowledge acquired. One must know before he can be. But because the universal is made with dualities, he must decide what he wants to be, before he can know what he must know. If you do not know what you must know, your life is guided by default patterns. As the poor do not know what they must know, and allow themselves to absorb what the rich want them to know, both their entertainment and salary are provided by the rich, and end up complementing one another in a form of mental enslavement. The one who does not know is always slave to that which is known. Reason why poor people have a big TV and rich people have a big library. Jim Rohn, Freemason. If one then awakens to the possibility of acquiring something greater to himself, he must necessarily revolt against the system and his conditions. That has the name of self-education. A governmental education can't provide the means to escape the same system that it promotes. That would be a conflict of its own interests. Reason why teachers and professors who get confused about their role, and promote this rebellion through the proper exercise of thought, are removed from their position. Many times, this occurs through the most indoctrinated among their students, that despite not yet having graduated, are already brainwashed enough to protect their own prison of thought. As thought is always a product of socialization, a self-education cannot, as well, be driven by what is popular or recommended. For that is a preselection made from the masses who are asleep. Your decisions must become independent and driven by your higher self, in order for you to become a mason of your own life. Chapter 2, The Dual Perspective. We always behave according to what we believe. Therefore, we can't see that which is found outside our spectrum of possibilities, we can only see what we think we are seeing. And we form our patterns of reason accordingly. The outside world then reflects the inner world, both in a mentally ill person and in the one who is sane. However, it is the sane one who can look at himself from the perspective of reality where he finds himself. He then understands the elements that are found in both worlds, such as the concept of value. For you don't get paid for the hour but for the value you bring to the hour. Jim Rohn, Freemason. The same mental exercise allows seeing that you never attract money but lessons to understand it instead, through hard work and experiences of a new nature, the intermediate process to change your thoughts about money, and before changing the reality of scarcity. The same principle is seen when you want to attract love, cars, vacations and job opportunities. Without self-love, you'll attract someone that invalidates you. Without a purpose for the car, you may soon crash it in an accident. Job opportunities will teach you about the importance of self-respect and life goals. Vacations will teach you the importance of perspective, between the state of work and leisure. Ideally, you want to be part of a reality where the contrast of perspectives, or gap between energies, is nullified, because then you can channel your energy fully to the attraction of wealth. You do this by shifting your thoughts on what I just mentioned. You find a spouse who admires you and respects your goals in life. You buy a car that is useful for you, even if for your self-esteem only. You choose a career in which you have pleasure in your work. You choose to live in the same location where you would go on vacations. We are always attracting our future but by default and with irresponsibility. In this process, we normally attract problems to learn more about ourselves. But we avoid the confrontation, refuse the responsibility and point fingers at others. In doing so, we keep repeating the same cycles until the lessons are learned. If we do not learn from our experiences, we may succumb to fear, depression and an overall downgrade of our motivation. We then stop dreaming and become apathetic. With such state of mind, we will tend to assimilate the values that keep us there, such as the widespread beliefs of the masses. The opposite comes from an acceptance of the challenges which are necessary to change our condition. Happiness can exist only in acceptance. George Orwell, Freemason. Chapter 3, The 11 Levels of Awakening. Our life is predictable because we only wish that which we are supposed to wish, as we can't wish that which we can't see. As people typically feel safe within patterns of predictability, to be unpredictable is then to be found crazy by those who are predictable. It is also to step out of the cycle in which they plant their own truths. This new state of mind requires a direction and an energy of its own, which comes from the process itself. The key to such change is then in the decision made when combined with the direction, more than it is in the information. The information will be attracted by the intended focus, resulting from the decision making when merging with the new direction, key and lock. The levels experienced afterwards result from the natural process of awakening, knowledge, insights and perceptions leading to awareness, a light of consciousness showing us a potential force, potential, the channeled energies that indicate doors of opportunity, an intersection of the physical and non-physical universes that aligns with creativity, the art of changing reality with our thoughts that leads to inspiration, a channeling from the realm of ideas that reveals the tools we need, inspired communication received from the divine realm of truthfulness, a neutral, non-judgmental, way of seeing that leads us to power, the capacity to achieve and transformation, the alchemical process that leads us to spiritual wisdom, a state of understanding by seeing and channeling through divine consciousness. When trying to apply the law of attraction, many people are stopped before the first step, the insights. And that is why they fail in getting to their results, even when reading abundantly and accumulating a vast amount of knowledge. This occurs because they perceive reality from a single perspective, the me, or ego. In order for one to acquire awareness through knowledge, one must perceive knowledge beyond himself. After that, layers of subtle information are revealed, all of which describe different states of awareness. The greater your awareness, the more able you are to unveil the many layers present in a book or even a conversation. Chapter 4: The 6 Layers of Hidden Knowledge. There are 6 layers for the hidden knowledge in all of creation, and they can be seen when we form a line of communication with the object of our observation. If the object of observation is a book, the first layer are the words, which can only be understood if you already have a meaning for them. That meaning comes first from the use of the word in your life, then the use of this word in the life of others, and finally the extension of the word in terms of emotional meanings for the author. The second layer are the patterns, which reveal structures of thought processes. These structures will merge with your own, to then allow forming a relationship with the author. If you can develop empathy for the author, you will be able to know his mind. The third layer comes as an empathic relationship with the universe of the author, which allows seeing the world as he sees it, and not only as he describes it. Through this exercise, you will be able to develop what is called a non-judgmental judgment, for you will see in the author things that he may not even see in himself or his life, his own spiritual experience or path. The fourth layer is the spiritual experience of merging your mind with that of the author himself. You will not lose your identity but rather expand your divine state of being, by being able to feel what someone, that may not even be alive anymore, feels. The fifth layer is the awareness itself, a state of blissfulness, in which you lose the sense of time, space or spiritual differentiation. You and the author become one and the same. You can see that he is not you, and yet you can see life as if living through his body. The sixth layer is the maintenance of the state of blissfulness, or in other words, the state of being without being, knowing without knowing and acting without acting. It is a state that Zen Buddhists have described abundantly, but is often misunderstood in the Western world as some form of passive living. The Zen state or sixth layer, is not about being passive or absent from life, but rather becoming life itself with full awareness, and in a state of permanent consciousness. You will know yourself in your state, when you are able to apply what I have just described, and that you can practice with the act of reading consciously, when with others. Because, there are 2 types of living as there are 2 types of reading. Those who read with their mind remain blind, they see only words and can merely debate interpretations. The truth is veiled before their eyes. The ones who can read with their heart, these are loved by God because they practice the true religion. This true religion is cosmic consciousness, a method of awakening through empathy, rejection of dogma and the embracing of a higher perception in relation to possibilities. We instinctively know the importance of this cosmic consciousness but can rarely see it, unless we are confronted with the other, that what is and is not at the same time. This condition is present in our reality as it is present in the state of being of others. We may call it good and bad, or one opinion versus another opinion, one perspective opposing another perspective, but is just consciousness trying to reveal itself within us. If we wish to adopt this type of consciousness in our daily interactions, we necessarily need to understand Zen, but it is just the first stage. Chapter 5, Zen. Eventually, we will have to learn to act without acting, defend without attacking, and win without the need to win. This application has been widely applied by masters of the Japanese martial arts but can be used in a debate, as much as it can be used for combat. Acting without acting, is to reposition your body or argument in such a way that your opponent is not prepared to defend himself and is forced to react by not reacting. Defending without defending, is to control the mind of your opponent in such a way that he is demotivated, and it can be done through intimidation as much as it can be done with a smile. Winning without the need to win, comes only when you either master the art of combat, and can neutralize your opponent without the need to prove something, or take his life, or when your consciousness of reality is such, that you can defeat any argument without the need to be right about what you say. The use of scientific facts and historical examples is a common way of doing this. For you are not projecting your ego into your argument when applying this principle. Ideally, one should come to such a state of awareness in which acting without acting means to be where the reality surrounding you uplifts you, rather than opposes you. A religion, a family, a club or society, and even a business partnership have this purpose. Defending without defending means to reposition yourself in space and reorganize your life in such a way that your past becomes merely a memory. This typically occurs when you make your culture and experiences obsolete, by moving to a new location. Even a walk in the park can help you distance yourself from the things that trouble your mind, and help you relax. Winning without winning becomes the joy of competing, overcoming challenges, and seeking problems, simply because you are in love with your life and everyone that surrounds you. This is made possible for the one who has found pleasure in work, pleasure in learning from different viewpoints, and pleasure in the act of creating and achieving goals. If you can develop yourself in such a way that what I just described becomes natural to you, you will not suffer from depression, loneliness, or even the fear of what others think and debt itself. Taking into consideration that over 90% of the mental illnesses, and even physical illnesses, are psychosomatic, it is easy to come to the conclusion that this knowledge will improve your overall well-being. As a spiritual creature, your health depends on the acknowledgement of your spiritual needs, and not only physical. You need love, happiness, and security, as much as you need food, exercise, and water. Chapter 6, Influence. The spiritual levels of awakening that one experiences will then reorganize the way of living. And ideally, we should be able to apply the same principles in our daily interactions with others. Knowledge, when you understand the person in front of you, through communication, awareness, the communication with another leads you to see the potential for a friendship or not. And, you can actually measure this by how another interacts with you, namely, by the amount of similar goals, similar viewpoints, and the affinity created, or how another person feels about you. Potential. Our interactions open new doors, namely, when you find something pleasant and new about another person, that can be interesting for you to learn or experience. Opportunity. Here, the intersection of the physical and non-physical, that aligns with creativity, is found in the things that the other shows you and you did not know or considered to exist. It can even be a new friendship or a romance, as when one friend of the same gender as us takes us to a party, where we meet another friend of the same gender, that then invites us to meet him and his wife happens to have a single friend, that meets with her that same day and falls in love with us. It can also occur through a seeking for a hairdresser, and eventually finding one that develops a relationship with us. Or even as business opportunities, that come years later, through the students that a teacher was working with, and that never forgot how much he did for them. Creativity. The art of changing reality with our thoughts comes precisely from the interaction with new realities emerging from new opportunities. Inspiration. We become more inspired whenever we act according to what God gives us. This means respecting the person offering us a job opportunity that we wanted for a long time, appreciating the love of someone we were trying to find for many years, and putting the efforts to comprehend someone who wants to develop a business idea with us, or help us develop our own ideas. An inspired communication becomes an honest communication, when you are appreciative of your interactions. The words flow through you without a need for analysis or even thinking. It becomes a spontaneous conversation, flowing between your connectedness with the spiritual world and the physical world, in which what you say isn't as important as what you feel that you must or must not say. Truthfulness. It is an art in the act of having a conversation with a neutral, and non-judgmental, way of seeing the other person, and that leads us to power. Influence. Power, the capacity to achieve agreements, and transform the views of another person through a positive approach to life. It is to uplift another. Transformation, the alchemical process of exchanging emotions with another person and uplift him or her, eventually leading us to more wisdom, about us, the other, and life itself. Wisdom, a state of understanding by seeing and channeling through divine consciousness, while interacting with the people that are within our spectrum of reality. As you develop these qualities and skills, you will turn into a better version of yourself, and a more pleasant human being as well. Others will want to be around you, they will invite you to spend time with them, they will take you to meet their own friends, and in time, you will be loved by many that will want to talk to you, help you, and uplift your existence. When this happens, the law of attraction is under the control of your vibration, your own consciousness, and basically, you. This you is the one who has decided everything already, and is now attracting the same future that he has envisioned in the past. You will then see the poles and levels closing the gap between themselves, and merging with one another, to lead you to what I explained as being a neutral way of living, or Zen, in which you act without acting. Chapter 7, The Alchemic Cycles. The three upper levels of consciousness, power, transformation, and wisdom will become one with the three lower levels, knowledge, awareness, and potential. In other words, you become powerful as an influencer. You transform others with your divine presence, you are wise in your words and actions, and as a result, you are offered knowledge, a higher awareness of the many opportunities that seem to appear out of nowhere, and potential to acquire more. In return, the knowledge, awareness, and potential of the ones you interact with, will influence you, transform you, and make you wiser. In the middle, the balance of the opposing forces, that can actually be seen as gradients, you find inspiration. You will know, not based on what you think, but what is fact through what works for you, what makes you succeed beyond your capacity to be able to explain such success. Many seek for shortcuts to what I have just described, by joining specific secret societies, but the ignorance of what I described blinds them. For God does not allow for enlightenment to the ones who are not prepared to receive it and even violate His laws. Many are unable to perceive with the heart that which they see with their mind. Because God has made them blind. As a result, these seekers of truth now have to humble themselves and merge with the bottom layer to find their path again. This is how God has hidden the truth. He revealed it to the authors, the virtuous who are leaders of new religions of their own, and the communities that have separated themselves from the whole of the social system to form their own ideology and live by their own values. As the top of the pyramid became corrupted, the truth was moved to the bottom, so that the cycle of transformation, from the upper layer to the bottom layer and vice versa, may occur. This is the reason why alchemy can only occur through cycles of spiritual rebellion, transformation and a rupture with the past, eventually leading to its renovation. We necessarily need to destroy the old religions to form new ones, which, by revealing the truths of the old, and segregating themselves from their lies, emerge as new opportunities for those who want to understand God. Surely, not all religions are aligned with what I just said. But if they are, they will not proclaim to be unique, but rather a branch of the one truth and the tree of knowledge. No religion is supreme to the truth or a reflection of such truth, but rather a reflection of the need for unity and development. Chapter 8, Resilience. A large amount of people that try to follow the spiritual laws, either when described by religion or independent authors, fail and then quit. In every situation I encountered, I have found that this happens because they lack knowledge on the intermediary steps, i.e., they don't know how to transform themselves between one stage of spiritual development and the next. As they are completely immersed within their mind, controlled by their ego, can only understand in a direct correlation with their needs. If such needs are not satisfied, they become blind to the rest of the information. It is a very infantile way of looking at reality. It means that such individuals think like little children, and cannot perceive reality as adults. As such, they don't really understand what to be a mature adult means. They lack the skills to act in a social manner, because they cannot not act like a toddler. A child wants things out of need, but does not acquire the perception of the need of others, not until he is 4 or 5 years old. Until then, he does not possess social cognition. The same occurs with those who want to be rich or famous, but can't understand that, in order to be rich, one must produce something of value to others, and to be famous, they must acquire a level of competence in personality, attributes or skills, that is admired by many. Object permanence, or the understanding that objects continue to exist, even when they cannot be seen, is another topic that has been researched abundantly, and again, shows us the mental development of an individual. A Swiss psychologist named Piaget concluded that it is only around 12 months that a child is able to retrieve an object that was hidden from sight. Before that, a baby makes no attempt to retrieve it. Interestingly, we see the same pattern in adults, for after being demoralized, lose interest in pursuing what they want, in this case, an object which is the goal of their desire. As we compare these experiments with adult behavior, we see that it is possible to bring anyone to an infantile state through the demoralization process, for example, giving and taking something away from the individual. The one who succeeds has to then, and necessarily, fight against a stream of occurrences, merging culture, social habits, education, and trends. Only then can he become resilient enough to achieve his goals, through the process of attempt and failure. The capacity to overcome failure is then a predisposition developed through resilience, that can only be obtained when we develop a determined mind. Everything that an entrepreneur faces, abandonment, ridicule, rejection, failure, disappointment, and betrayal, are part of this stream of energy that I am showing here. When his goals are aligned with the stream, the energy necessary to overcome the resistance of this flow, is necessarily much higher. For example, he meets a woman who is obsessed with social validation and falls in love with her. He is struggling to be accepted by his family and they don't understand what he does. He wants to maintain a healthy social life but the habits of his friends conflict with his own goals. It is said that leaders and successful entrepreneurs are very lonely people, and as I have seen, this is true, but not by their own choice. Entrepreneurs enjoy debating ideas, meeting new people and learning new things. But they are aware of this stream of emotional pressure coming from others, and usually, can only relax around those who are appreciative or have a similar way of thinking. If we wish to diminish the force of this stream coming from the outside world, we need to focus on the stream of energy coming from within, and that means developing our determinism through an emotional force that comes from love. Love for life, love for what we do, love for who we are, love for what our goals mean to us, love for the process of transformation. This love for the alchemical transmutation is what the Gnostic teachings, and in particular, the Nag Hammadi library, and the teachings of Jesus in particular, show us. Chapter 9, The Transition from Knowledge to Awareness. When people acquire knowledge and can't understand its application, they will fail to gain awareness. Such is the case of what happens in the various educational institutions, and in particular, universities. College students are taught to repeat processes, and quite often, they don't even understand how such processes were invented, or what makes them useful. They are exposed to an abundance of information that must be replicated but can't really be debated. It is not the job of the student to question the validity of the information received. As such, many of them never acquire a proper awareness of the mechanics in their thought process, and which emerge from this brainwashing, this assimilation of patterns without a comprehension. They become educated morons, able to think thoughts that are not their own. The educational system has succeeded, throughout the entire world, in creating a whole lineage of students that can't think, when they think they are thinking, can't argue, when they think they are arguing, can't introspect their own behavior, while believing to be introspecting their behavior, can't analyze data, when assuming they are analyzing data, can't empathize with those who are not similar to them in some way, or cooperate with them, but compete. As such, they become immersed in a trance, and don't seem to understand why they will never get what they want from life by looking at the outside rather than the inside, their own unnatural state of awareness. They want money but don't understand anything about money, they want success but disregard the importance of values leading to admiration, they want to be popular but only because they crave egotistic attention. Since the end of the 80s and beginning of the 90s, the ones in power, that, in many cases, care about nobody but themselves, have found ways to implement communist ideals in the masses, by studying their weaknesses and psychological tendencies, by looking into their behavior patterns and taking advantage of their fears and needs. And so, we have now before us, a whole world full of infantile idiots, who are absolutely convinced that their ideals are truly uplifting and worthwhile. They cannot understand anything beyond their version of reality, they even see as a personal attack any attempt at correcting them. They are useless, except as a tool of the system that has made them. They will fight for any code that has been implanted in them, like a computer waiting for the right password. But as human beings, they are completely useless. They have no future or hope, because they can't re-educate themselves, and won't re-educate themselves, or accept a version of reality that is not their own, that doesn't conform with the agenda for the masses. They are so obsessed with the idea of being validated and accepted by others, that they turn into psychological prostitutes in less than a second, and sell all of their values in exchange for anything. They are the perfect slave. Chapter 10, The Self-Deception. Even if you succeed in changing a person for their own good, and they can see the positive results of that, how long do you think they will keep themselves in the right path, before they return to their old self, simply because they feel alienated in this new self? When a person has seen the positive effects of a new behavior, in comparison to the negative effects of old behaviors, but goes back to old habits, because she doesn't want to be discriminated or alienated, there is nothing you can do anymore. That is the ultimate frontier of sanity. For the one who, knowing he sleeps, refuses to awaken, is dead already. Awareness then remains something unattainable, for the one claims that he wants to be free from these chains but refuses to awaken. He protests that wants to be free, like a bird in a cage, but when you open the door of the cage, he refuses to fly away, because he is afraid of freedom. The attachments formed around what others fear and want, as well as to a need for validation and social assimilation, then holds them with chains of emotional patterns that disrupt the flow of energy in the mind, sabotage conclusions and downgrade the potential to dream and move forward. It is like living a life of a slave with brain implants that you don't even know to have. Implants that deny you the real world behind the illusions put before your eyes. Such implants are structures of thought that pass between individuals, making sure that the brainwashed contaminate the non-brainwashed, in order to succumb both groups to the same ideal. You may not see this, but you die every day a little more, to then be reborn within a system that was artificially constructed for you. Removing yourself from such a prison, is then to deny the unnatural, perceived by many as natural, and become unnatural yourself. It can be very scary, but the only way you will ever create miracles. The ones who are stopped in their transition from awareness to the application of their energies, through potential, opportunity and creativity, may not be able to do it if their overall health condition and habits are poor, or if they are afraid to fail. Therefore, one must maintain a healthy energy within his body, through exercise and a good diet, that allows to then direct the vital energy, when aligned with a purpose. But also, not be so afraid to fail that such energy is wasted. Chapter 11, The Transition from Awareness to Power. Quite often, those who are afraid to fail, do fail, because they seek for reasons to fail more than they see for ways to succeed. They make poor decisions that lead them to failure, and are too demotivated to overcome challenges. And, if the amount of failure and deception is overwhelming, when compared to the motivation the individual possesses, that's when he will give up. The two elements are relative to one another. The highly motivated person may overcome more barriers than the one who is not properly motivated. Reason why, knowing what motivates us, is an equally important part of the process of becoming successful. If money is the only thing that motivates a person, then he will easily demotivate, because you can't make money without first experiencing not having money, or even losing money. It is the poor who gets angry when he loses money. For the very rich, money is just energy. He doesn't want to lose it, but his focus is in acquiring, not accumulating, saving and hoarding money. When the entrepreneur is able to hire employees, he understands this concept better, because his investment is now in the energy of others. He is paying them to get more money. For the workers, the salary is their goal, but for the entrepreneur, the production of the workers is the goal. The more the workers do, the more he earns, and the more he can invest again, namely, by maintaining their job, increasing their salary, and hiring more people. This cycle of energy then motivates him to do more and accomplish more. But still, it is not the money that motivates him. It is the pleasure of controlling the flow of energy and doing what he is passionate about. For money buys time, when invested in the employees, opportunities, when invested in profitable ideas, health, when invested in ourselves and our well-being, happiness, when invested in balancing our lifestyle accordingly, love, when invested in the people we want in our life. The application of these principles can only fail when we can't learn from our mistakes and develop new ideas from such experiences. Schools are part of a system that does not want independent thinkers and philosophers, and much less entrepreneurs. That is why students are told to obey and memorize instead. If they knew how to think, they could reach the levels of potential and power that would turn them into unpredictable human beings. And that is something that scares those that are in the top of the food chain. Nobody who has power wants to lose such power. Therefore, the lower stages of this ladder are blocked to those who want to develop themselves and achieve the same. The blocking occurs in every single one of the levels described: knowledge. Most of the school books are full of lies. Awareness, if the knowledge isn't true, awareness doesn't occur. Potential, even if a student acquires potential, he is not given any opportunity. Reason why so many college graduates struggle to find a job. Opportunity, if the opportunity comes, it is always aligned with the system and not with something out of it, such as the opportunity to do something new. Even the most unique ideas, when investigated, will show this. As an example, we have social media, which is used by mega corporations to investigate consumer habits, and by secret agencies for espionage. Creativity, after years of indoctrination in a classroom, creativity is dead. Then, even the most bright, when given an opportunity, have no idea of what to do with it, because they lack imagination, inspiration. If there is no creativity, there is no inspiration. Ideas, without creativity and inspiration, ideas are blocked by the mind. Truthfulness, as the mind of such individual is blocked, he can't differentiate truth from lie. For him, what others do is what he understands as truth. Most of such individuals are even atheist, because they can only perceive the physical world. The vast masses, due to the reasons presented above, will never achieve any form of power. They will never become influential. The only way to develop such skills, beyond the constrictions and manipulations of the educational system, is through art. Reason why even art is seen as the least important school topic.